Rise of the King is a new third-person action-adventure game set within a medieval fantasy world. It is trying to be released in the later end of 2018, and I'm very excited for this, as it is bringing together a lot of mechanics and things that we know from well-known games out today, but also moulding its own story and making itself into a very, very unique game, and something we haven't really seen before of this genre. And I'll get onto that later, and you'll probably understand when I start explaining what the story this is. So, Rise of the King is set around a more single-player experience, as your quest to investigate the disappearance of a missing child. This is a very unusual storyline that you might find in a game of this genre, but I think it's going to work very well, as you'll see later on in this video how I describe how it's going to work. You will explore a sweeping storyline filled with unique characters and meaningful interactions along your journey. They want to create an immersive and more dynamic experience, and they're doing this by combining a unique combination of survival, action, and investigation mechanics to flesh out the game. Although I did say it is set in a medieval world, they're trying to keep it as a realistic tone. In other words, they're not going for the medieval as if the orcs, the elves, that kind of faction sort of things, but is set in a fantasy world that doesn't actually exist, but is still trying to keep the realistic tone of the medieval world. But this has its advantages. Because they're trying to keep a more realistic tone, you're not going to find the typical open world survival game mechanics. Because it's more single player driven, there won't be any obsession of stats, gears, and levels that you can get throughout normal other things. So a lot of the time in survival games, you're going to be wanting to upgrade, you want to grind your stats so you can get better gear, better weapons, and better skills and things like that to be able to progress in the gameplay. That is not going to be happening here. This is a more single player driven experience. You'll have to survive in a frozen, dangerous world. You'll have to search for food, water, drinks, supplies, and shelter, and you're also going to have to defend yourself from the hostilities of the outside world. These include not only hostile wildlife, but also bandits and factions. Like I mentioned before, the whole storyline is you're an investigator. You're trying to find out what happened to this missing boy. And along your way, you're going to have all of these challenges and things you're going to have to face. You're going to have to examine for clues, read and interact with objects, interview people, and solve various types of challenges in order to advance your story in The Rise of the King. The combat that they are trying to get into this game is unlike a lot we have seen, but they have said that is sort of related and a bit of a combination with some of the Dark Souls combat and some of their own new ideas that they're putting in. It is very hardcore combat, I have to state that now. This will not be easy. They have said that it is a very easy to learn but very hard to master type combat system, as we've seen in games such as Dark Souls and Mountain Blade. I would say Dark Souls is kind of another level of difficulty, but it all bases around the same idea. But this game is complete hardcore. No regenerating health, no health potions, power-ups, or any special abilities that will help you on your way. Like I mentioned before, there'll be wildlife that'll be trying to take you out on your way as well. Wolves can outnumber you, they can knock you down or strip away your bow momentarily. Bears can pin you down to the ground or outrun you. And humans can pick up on your patterns and make adjustments. This is something very interesting. If this mechanic works and if they've been able to develop it, I've not really seen this in many games before. Because of course when you're fighting AI, normally you can do the same thing. Either you have to spam them a lot, or you know when to put your attacks in adequately in order to win the duel or battle. But if the player is always doing the same strikes, if they can make it where the mechanics show that the AI can actually adapt to this and change their fighting style and stance in order to combat the player, this is going to make it a lot more difficult and a very, very hardcore combat experience. Not only will there be combat against players, but you'll also have to hunt in order to survive. You can experience the thrill of the hunt as you track and hunt a wide array of animals and wildlife to stay alive and feed yourself. There will also be some sort of construction and crafting in here. You'll be able to make campsites in order to stay warm, maybe a temporary camp overnight, and you'll be able to craft things such as bandages, torches, traps, arrows, and various other supplies along the way. but really it is a very bare bones survival game. Being able to craft stuff is in there, but I suspect there's not going to be extravagant buildings, there's not going to be things that are going to make you overpowered, since this is a very harsh, hardcore medieval fantasy world. So what is the backstory of Rise of the King? In a bit of a summary, the king has fallen, and the lands of Arnathon are in turmoil. With the loss of their sovereign and on the brink of war, the people are left abandoned, confused and uncertain of the future. Amid the confusion and political unrest, the son of your lord, William of Winterlight, goes missing, and as the only one with the skills to track him, you are tasked with investigating the disappearance. You, as the protagonist, are a forester and an expert tracker, as I did mention before. Your name is Grayson Wallace, and you are a skilled woodsman and archer, having served in the army once before, fighting alongside your house. He is a man of few words and fewer friends since a tragic loss of his wife and younger child. In search of a new beginning, you flee to the north, seeking solace for the memories. However, a man can never escape his own heart. It rules a man for all the days of his life. Now, what does this mean? This could be a very simple backstory to a very simple yet intriguing character. And reading more into this, the protagonist seems like someone that won't come across as such a powerful and deep character at first. But I feel like there's going to be a lot more to this character, and I'm very excited to see how they expand his story. It does say that a man can never escape his own heart. It rules a man for all the days of his life. Could this mean that not only is this going to be an intense survival, combat, and sort of puzzle and clue-driven game where you have to investigate to find this person, but is it also going to include very hard, player-driven story, where you have to choose your decision in order to progress the story, and it may involve some very hard choices along the way. I'm very interested to see how this plays out. But as the northmost region of Arnathon, New Haven is a vast, cold and untamed wilderness. Resources are scarce and dangers abundant. Wolves and other fearsome predators prowl the cold winter night. Blizzards are common and relentless in their ferocity. Nature, however, is not the only threat, for the heart of the man is ever dark and searching for someone to devour. Now, coming back to this whole heart thing, I really think that this is a bit of a hint to how story-driven this game is. This is not going to be your typical survival game that we've seen a lot of today. This is going to be a main medieval story just set in an open world, where you're going to have the combination between setting yourself at a target, going through the story as the player, but also along the way you're going to have to survive. You can easily die. You can easily end your story unless you keep yourself supplemented with food, water, or the survival skills that you need in order to progress. So, how has this game been coming along then? From what the developers have been saying, they've been working on it for a couple of years now. Most of the mechanics apparently have already been done. So this is very good news. They're not starting this and announcing it before they've even gone on to the development. These are not just ideas. These are something they have been working very, very hard on, something I'm very interested to see and learn more about. Now, there is a Kickstarter for this, and I would want to stress that they have actually developed most of this game, so they've said, from their own money and their own time and effort. But it's only on the final stages and trying to reach that end goal that they need that extra bit of money to push it to the end. There is a Kickstarter which I will link down in the description if you want to go check it out. If you want to support it, I definitely recommend you do that if you just want to learn more about the game. Also, you can go and check that out as well. From the gameplay that we have seen of this, it is looking very promising. Personally, the bit I'm most looking forward to is the whole new thing about having a medieval world, but also having sort of investigating things in it. Maybe you go into a tavern and you see someone looking a little bit sketchy. You go over to them, you interview them, maybe you'll even have to force the information out of them. Or maybe there's going to be tracks on the floor that are going to give you clues to where you're going to find this missing child. All of this revolves around a very heavily story-driven experience that the developers have been working on very long and hard. So thank you guys for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you're looking forward to this game, make sure you give this video a thumbs up and go and check out the Kickstarter and their website. Which part are you most looking forward to? In your opinion, is this different to what we've seen before? Or do you think it's very similar to what has been released in the past, and how excited are you because of that decision? But other than that guys, I really hope you enjoyed this video. Remember to stay subscribed to my channel for more content like this. But until then, I will see you in the next one.